a man does have intense drive to chase goals, but a man can also be that soft side.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Truth Talks, the podcast that brings you real strategies for sustainable fitness transformation. I'm Courtney, and this is my brother Parris, and today we are doing a little bit of a different style of episode. Typically, what we do is we take a common fitness question around fitness transformation, and we dive into it and talk about the nuances and the truths and the myths and all of that. Today, we want to acknowledge a really, really important topic when it comes to fitness transformation. We think needs more attention.
Yeah.
It is the start of November now. This episode comes out November 3rd. So November has actually been, in recent years, become a little bit more of a time where we focus on men's health and specifically men's mental health, thanks to Movember and what that campaign has done. So we wanted to take an opportunity to start this month with a bit of a more deep, meaningful conversation about men's mental health in fitness.
For sure. I think this is something that needs to be talked about a lot more. But the thing is, it's up to us as men to initiate these conversations. And something I've been trying to do more with my friend group and my circle is initiating more conversations about like, hey, how you doing? And then when they give you, oh, I'm good. And it's like, no, really, how are you doing? Because as men, we need to be the ones that are so masculine and we don't have feelings and nothing affects me. But in reality, that's not the case because we are still humans. And yes, maybe, we are going to play that role as, that rock to have as support for people around us. I know like for my partner, she relies on me sometimes for emotional support, but that doesn't mean that I can't go the opposite way.
Of course.
And I think as men, we need to it's our responsibility to initiate more conversations around men's mental health and not just assume that, oh yeah, we should talk more about it. It's like, yeah, well, we need to initiate that change in the first place if we want it to happen.
Yeah. Like how are we going to talk about it if you're not talking about it?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's why excited feels like the wrong word, but I'm very much looking forward to having this conversation with you today, Parris. Like you are a man in my life, right, as my brother, but I also have my partner and we've got our dad and other family members, and the men in our life are really important. And so I'm hoping that this conversation can use your personal experience, but then also through kind of our sibling dynamic, talk a little bit about how we as women can also support the men in our lives when it comes to mental health. And because of our scope of practice, we're specifically going to talk about kind of the relationship with fitness and mental health today.
Yeah.
But, that is not where the conversation ends at all.
For sure.
Yeah. But I think it kind of, for me, kind of as a woman, when I think about men's mental health and fitness, and I'd love for you to kind of like correct me on any of this or jump in with your own perspective, it comes through in two ways. The first is, I think, the pressure on mental health and kind of the negative aspects that can be, I guess, prompted by the fitness space, the fitness culture, fitness industry, fitness messaging, and how that isn't always positive when it comes to its impact on mental health. And then, of course, there's the flip side of how fitness and mental health go hand in hand, right? Pursuing your fitness goals can actually be really positive for benefiting your mental health, but also sometimes a mental health challenge can inspire your fitness goals. So these two things are not unrelated, and I think we need to start there before we can really dive into it further.
Definitely. There's lots of layers. I would say the first thing before you even hop into maybe why, men's mental health has been more affected in more recent times with social media and stuff like that. I do want to say, like, if you are struggling with a mental health situation, we'll call it, one of the best things you can do is all the actions that you would need to make progress in your fitness journey are also going to help that. You're telling me that sleeping more, focusing on that, training regularly, doing some steps and getting some sunlight and fueling your body better is not going to help between the ears. Like that's, if you are somebody who is dealing with mental health, we'll say again, issues or barriers as a man, and you're not checking the boxes in like that I just mentioned, you're not giving yourself a fighting chance. So I think as first things first, we do have the responsibility to take actions that we know are going to help us feel better, like those most basic ones as well. And I think pursuing a goal will give you so much purpose in your life. In this context, we're talking about fitness specifically, that it will give you that pep in your step when you maybe feel lost. The best thing you can do when you feel lost or you're like, oh man, I'm kind of down. Like there's nothing to look forward to, that kind of hopelessness. Well, guess what? If you set a goal and work towards it, you always have something to look forward to every single day.
And we do want to acknowledge as well, I think we have to acknowledge mental health does exist on a spectrum. So yes. if you are dealing with very serious mental health consequences, I also don't think this is man or woman. It's realistic to expect fitness to do all the work for you.
No.
Please do seek like professional help.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
That needs to be at the forefront. But what we're saying is that, or what I'm hearing you say, Parris, is that taking care of the same actions that we would take care of as the basics of your fitness journey do also have positive benefits for mental health.
Yep.
Whether that's actually allowing you to find purpose in being goal oriented, whether that's actually helping you feel in control, because sometimes that helplessness that ties into mental health is just, I don't feel like I'm in control of my own life, and fitness does give us that. And sometimes it is actually the functional health benefits of, like you said, going for a walk. I don't want to make light of this at all, but in COVID, it was that trending reel video of like going for a stupid walk for my stupid mental health, right? And that became a bit of a joke, but that is something that is inherently beneficial for your fitness journey, but also just beneficial for you as a human and your physical and mental health.
And also, I think as for even the younger generation of men, having something that will build your confidence that you initiated, like taking major action and seeing your body develop and seeing yourself getting stronger, and saying, hey, when I put in this hard work, I get this result that is positive for me. Like learning that kind of relationship with action and outcome, I think is really important to build your confidence as a guy. Same thing for women, obviously, but we're talking about men in this conversation. And therefore, you can apply it to other aspects of your life. You take that confidence that you built from your fitness journey, and then you apply it in the workplace or in your relationships or in your business or at school. Like those are the same principles that will make you successful in your fitness journey can then make you successful in other things. And once you realize that, you can build a lot of confidence through your fitness journey. Yeah.
Do you feel comfortable sharing a little bit about like your journey? Because you were quite young when you started your fitness journey. And, now I think the focus around mental health is all men, but a lot of the research around the relationship between mental health and fitness is actually skewing towards young men. So let's start the conversation there. And like, do you have perspective you want to share about what it was like for you as a younger man getting into fitness, and if there was a relationship with your mental health at the time?
Yeah, I think when I first started my fitness journey, it was out of insecurity. Like I really just didn't like what I saw in the mirror. And I think I can even look back to, I don't know how old I was, maybe 11, and I saw a picture of myself at the beach, and already I was like, what am I even looking at? Like that is not acceptable. And, I think that's what initiated it. But then also, my teenage years, I had a lot of kind of anger or frustration that I need to take out in something. And I think the gym played a key role in allowing me to expend that energy somewhere productive that was not in somewhere negative. Like you could spend that energy partying or through chasing women all the time or other behaviors that men typically take, and why there's a lot of issues with men in certain situations because they don't have healthy outlets. I think the gym was kind of that anchor for me that said, as you said before, it gave me something that I could control, but it also was a way for me to positively expend energy on my own terms, and gave me something I could kind of channel that, I don't want to say maybe like aggression or frustration into. Yeah.
Right. So it became like that physical outlet that you needed.
Yeah.
That then therefore became a bit of a emotional outlet as well.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I think it's such a young age. Like now when we look back on that and we think about like high school and things like that, but that is where we need to start having the conversation. It's not waiting until men have gone through all the life stages and been like, oh, well, we had challenges. It's getting it early, because the attention on fitness is actually becoming younger and younger and younger.
Yes.
Like people are stepping into the gym for the first time when they're really young, but also people are exposed to fitness messaging at younger and younger ages.
Yeah.
And I think, you spoke to a little bit of having that insecurity. And I did look into some research around like body dysmorphia in men, right?
Go for it.
And I think it's really important because historically we see body dysmorphia as something that affects women, and that's true. And that is not any less true because we're having this conversation about men today. But men experience something called muscle dysmorphia. And it's that idea of like it's defined as like a pathological pursuit of muscularity. And I want to also get your perspective on the nuance here around when we actually cross a threshold into more of the dysmorphia side, because we do pursue muscle building goals as both men and women. We both do. But for you, you've had muscle building goals for years, but there is a difference between wanting to develop your physique and actually having some dysmorphia around it, where it leads to obsessive compulsive behaviors
Hmm.
and this constant feeling of insufficiency that drives those obsessive compulsive behaviors. And that's really that muscle dysmorphia that does kind of uniquely affect men.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? And I think there's a very fine line between like really having your variables dialed in. Like if somebody were to look at my behaviors on a daily basis, like some of them might exemplify to somebody else as obsessive behaviors, but for me they're normal. But the difference between actually having like that issue or not is how I feel about those behaviors and the awareness that I have of myself. Like I can
Right.
objectively say, hey, I really want to build muscle, but like it's not to the point where like I am so fixated on that and I could never see myself making progress, and I won't objectively look and be like I have made progress, or things like that, or being okay if I do
Mm-hmm.
take a day off, or if I need a break, or if I lose some gains, or for some reason if I was injured or sick,
Mm-hmm.
or that's the only thing that matters in my life. Like I think the difference is what perspective you have on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that yeah, a lot of those behaviors from the outside view might look obsessive, but again, it's because my awareness of it is healthy and the perspective I have on them is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it's not obsessive compulsive
Right.
like things like we're talking about.
I think a key difference, and I'm saying this like as your sister, and what I would
Yeah,
hope
yeah,
for you would be that you don't attach your value as a person to how much muscle
yes,
you have on your body, right?
not even close.
And I think that's the important thing. And that's one thing I've noticed with you. I think you have a very level head around, first of all, you have very realistic expectations.
Hmm.
And you don't allow those expectations to be distorted by messaging around you. And that is a
Yeah,
very hard thing to do. And I want to explore more of that with you as well and how you do that. But I think you also do say, okay, these are my expectations for myself. And you will do everything you can to meet those expectations and exceed them
hmm,
when you can. But it's not at the expense of other aspects of your life. And that's the thing I
right.
see from you as your sister, right? And how you live your life and why I'm not as concerned as I could have been, right? And I
Hmm.
feel proud of the work that you're doing to build muscle and know that it's serving you as a human, but you're also keeping a perspective that, yeah, other people might not say it's like balance but this is also what you do. This is what you
Yeah,
do for a living. This is where you
exactly.
go all in. But you do not let that interfere with other values that you have as a human being. And I think that's what I respect about you.
Thanks. No, I appreciate that. Like again, if I lost all my muscle today, it would really suck, but and I could get it back. But at the same time, it's like I
Mm-hmm.
still have so many other things that I've going from not at a place of ego, but I mean like I have great relationships, right? I have
Mm-hmm.
great family, I have great friends, I have a great business with great clients, and I have a lot of purpose in that. So it's like my self worth is not tied into anything with my physique. Do I love chasing my goals super hard and seeing my body develop?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Will I continue to do that? Probably until I can't do it anymore. Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that I'm nothing without that. And I
Right.
think this is where a lot of people, especially ones that get into physique sport, like competing, they have their whole identity fixated
Mm-hmm.
on outcomes with competing or their physique. So they don't know who they are without that. If
Mm-hmm.
you took the gym away from me, I would still know who I am and still be okay. I
Mm-hmm.
would find something else that I can put an outlet into, but it's there's that difference of like you need to also be okay with being who you are. There's like fitness Paris, and there's also like Paris, and there's also business Paris, and there's also like boyfriend Paris and son Paris, and you can't have all of those are all fitness Paris. It's like you need to understand the different layers to you, and not and even though I'm from the outside perspective very one track minded, I can still be all those different types of myself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't forget brother Paris in there
Oh
because
yeah, brother,
you got
brother
me.
Paris.
Just kidding.
Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely.
I think so. I'd love to just explore more about the relationship when we talk about that fitness Paris and
Mhm.
just not just you, but expand that into men and fitness
Yeah.
and how all consuming it can be and how some men might struggle to compartmentalize or not even compartmentalize, but to actually
Hmm.
see the different dimensions of who they are. And when the fitness side maybe takes over and becomes all consuming. And is that something that you've experienced, not just yourself, but you've worked with a number of men? What's your perspective on that tipping point of when it becomes all consuming and can start to have maybe less of that productive, hey, this is helping me become a better version of myself, and a little bit more of that, let's say, negative side effect of taking away from those other dimensions of who you might be as a man?
That's interesting. That's really interesting. I don't know, and I think the line is different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it starts to impact like your personal relationships or your ability to progress in other areas of your life,
Mm-hmm.
in a way that's like interfering with your overall development as a human, then it's something to look at.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the way that the approach that we take it with our clients is with perspective, and because like we've seen it all by now, like the initial way of starting is in a way where it shouldn't feed those behaviors of being all or nothing, or as being this is like, you know, everything that matters. Like the way that I coach is very much conversational, and it's very much letting the person also make their own understanding of the journey,
Mm-hmm.
and how this ties in with them as a human.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't get overly fixated on certain things. Like we focus on things that matter, but then it's not everything that we are,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, I think one thing that men experience maybe more than women from my female perspective is that intensity of the stereotypically masculine energy in the fitness space
Mm-hmm.
around all or nothing, go hard or go home, no pain, no gain, never miss a Monday. And that feeling that to be a man in fitness, it means to do everything in this extreme state where you give it all of you, and not
Mm-hmm.
all of you in the sense of like I'm giving it my all, I'm doing what I can, but like to the point where it does become more that all consuming. What's your perspective on that messaging and how it can actually affect men's mental health? Because I'm sitting here on the outside as a woman being like, I struggle with that,
Mm-hmm.
but as a man there might be a different expectation of that resonating with you than there would be for me.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think there is a lot of that kind of, I call it toxic masculinity. One of the sides of toxic masculinity where
Mm-hmm.
it is like you have to wake up at 5 and there's no sleep and you got to run until you puke, and like, you know, all those things. And I think I'm all for working really hard, and I preach, you know, being intense about your goals and chasing them. But I can also sit on the couch with my mom and have a tea for 3 hours and watch some Netflix. And I can
Mm-hmm.
also like give a 2 minute hug to my girlfriend and be soft in that moment. I don't need to always be very much intense. I think what we really need to do is know when it's time to go all in and be that intense, like use that masculine energy, and then also when it's time to pull back and not be so in that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think we're preaching though with these things online is to the younger generation that you are not manly unless
Mm-hmm.
that is your one setting that you have.
Wow.
And I think it's really important. A man does have intense drive to chase goals, but a man can also be that soft side.
Mm-hmm.
And a well balanced man also knows how to show up for those around them in a big way as well, and also has feelings and also knows how to communicate those feelings, and also is in touch with their emotions and has awareness of their emotions as well. And if we're looking at the toxic masculinity stuff, they're promoting almost ignoring your emotions. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very much being unconditional with the actions that we need to take, but that doesn't mean that I don't let myself feel what I need to feel in the moment.
Yeah.
Like if I'm tired, I'm feeling tired today. All right, I'm still going to do it anyways, but I allow myself to feel what I need to feel. And if I'm like outlier tired, then I
Mm-hmm.
know I'll just give myself some rest and I'll still get the work done, but just later, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like reorganizing around your feelings a little bit too.
Yeah.
Um, like even if I may, like a couple weeks ago, you messaged me and you're like, "I'm feeling not good today. I've got
Mhm.
this crazy headache. I'm gonna defer the gym to tomorrow."
Yeah.
And that by no means was you giving up on your goals or saying, "I have to push through this feeling because that's what a man does." That
Yeah.
was you saying, "This is how I feel. I recognize this as an outlier, and this is what I need to do about it so I can feel good now and later."
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, I had a wicked headache that day. I don't know. I was working and finished my check-ins, and all of a sudden I was like, "Holy crap!" So I just went in. I literally laid down for like 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I started to feel better after, and but yeah, the gym can wait till tomorrow. I still got all the work done within the week, but I think yeah, true men know how to push, but they also know when to pull back too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's interesting, but I think yeah, we need to preach definitely chasing goals hard, but also acknowledging the other side of what it means to be
Yeah.
a well-rounded man. Yeah.
So, what would you say to that younger generation who is at risk of continuing to hear those same toxic masculine mantras online to help them recognize that it doesn't always have to be that run till you puke
Mm-hmm.
or, lift to the point of injury, whatever analogy you want to have? What's your guidance to them?
It's tough, right? It's because every situation is different. I think it's more knowing what you need to do for your goals and getting that done, but
Mm,
then giving yourself grace on other things that
Mhm.
maybe are not a priority for you. Like, we can't do it all. Like, the messaging online is you have to be a billionaire and be shredded year round, and there's so much pressure for men to just be this perfect human, which doesn't exist. And the standards just for what a man has to be from an outside perspective has just gone way, way, way too overblown. So I think it's just, being a little bit more realistic. And as you mature as men, you're going to, you'll see things a little bit with more maturity, but also having good mentors in your life that can give you that perspective, and spending time with good older men, and older relative to you, not old, but you know what I mean. They could
Or
be
old.
old,
They could be old.
but relative to you, older with more experience and maturity, and maybe have reached similar accolades to that you would aspire to, and getting their perspectives now that they have that kind of wisdom. So I think that's really, really important. But yeah, acknowledging what is going to matter to you and chasing that really hard, but then not getting so pressurized to achieve on everything else that doesn't actually matter to you. Like, let's say I didn't care about the gym. It's like, okay, well, why am I putting so much pressure on myself to be like some shredded bodybuilder when that's not aligning with my values?
Right.
Or let's say somebody has a Ferrari. Well, what if I don't like Ferraris? Why do I have to put so much pressure on? I have to get this Ferrari because that's what a man does. They have this Ferrari. It's like, okay, let's put aside like everything else, what everybody else tells us, and focus on like what matters to us, and let's chase that really hard. Yeah.
I think that's hard to do at 18, man or woman. It's hard. It is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard because so much of what you think you need is tied up in what other people have told you think you need, or the peer pressure situation. It is hard. So we're not saying it's that easy, but acknowledging that it's important to actually pause and reflect and understand what you need, and also being okay if those needs change over time. We talk a lot about the seasons of life, right? And like you see it with people who have kids, right? Their priorities change, as they should, right? It doesn't mean different priorities go out the window, but it means things shift.
Yeah.
And so I think knowing as well, not only what is your goal in a moment, what I'm hearing you say is like picking a goal can be really helpful to like break through the noise and figure out what do I actually need to do versus not worry about, which is kind of relieving, right? To know, okay, I got to do these things, but I don't need to do all these other things. I feel like there's a mental health benefit in that. Just identifying, okay, this aligns with my goal, this doesn't, so I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah.
But I think part of that is, and this is the thing that I would imagine is hard to do if you are just a young man listening to this, is knowing what actually does matter to get to your goals or not. Because you could say, okay, I have this goal. I think that I want to, let's say I do want to have more muscle, and the goal is that straightforward. But everyone else is still telling me that to get there, I need to do this, go hard, go home. I need to be in the gym 7 days a week, 3 hours a day to look like this guy.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's where your comment on having a mentor who's been through it can be helpful, because you need to have trusted sources of information and trusted guidance, because you can't be expected to make all those decisions on your own. Otherwise, it becomes a huge mental burden to be like, I need to figure out, how do I get this goal? That's tough.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
We can't really talk fully about the relationship between men's mental health and fitness without going back to muscular dysmorphia, right? And where that comes from and why it's so prevalent now. We talked about just now about like the go hard, go home mentality, and the idea of extremes and extreme states, and how that can be all consuming, and some ideas on how to manage it and perspective there. But that idea of extremes isn't just about the messaging. It also is about the physiques that young men are exposed to, specifically with social media. And there has actually been some of the research that I found was actually specifically about the relationship between social media and muscle dysmorphia in young men. And it is a clear correlation and a clear relationship there. And I'd love to explore that with you a little bit more in terms of what your perspective is on that, and how social media can actually be kind of detrimental to men's mental health, specifically when it comes to the imagery around muscle.
Yeah, I think the standard of what a good physique is, quote unquote, has just gotten absolutely like blown out of proportion. Like, even if you look at the 80s, like what we would consider like in movies, like, wow, this person's in great shape, now is like on social media, fitness standards is like completely out of shape. Which doesn't mean that person doesn't have a good physique. It's just, this is what I visualize social media as in terms of fitness. Okay. Let's say I have this giant box of sand. Okay. And that makes up all the men in the world. And each little particle of sand means one man. What social media does is it takes this little tiny bit of that sand, and it puts it in front of you and only shows you that on repeat. So now we think that all particles of sand look like that, and if we're not like that, somehow we're inferior, when in reality, very, very tiny amount of people actually look like that, and they only really look like that for a few days of the year, and in certain contexts with perfect lighting and pumped up and using tons of drugs, which we'll get to next. But our perception is that all men look like that. Like real men all look like that, and in reality, it's like only the tiniest amount of the population actually looks like that. You know?
It's mind-blowing. When you actually put it that way and you think about how skewed the perspective is. And I'm not blaming people on social media, right? No. Like that is what we are exposed to in that vacuum.
Yeah.
And the research was even talking about, like, when we go one step further and we say, well, what are we exposed to? It's not just the physiques. So they did a study around boys and men from Canada and the US, and they wanted to look at the association between content and, let's say, probable muscle dysmorphia, because these individuals weren't diagnosed, but they exhibited the signs, the signifiers, the mental associations that indicated probable muscle dysmorphia. And they looked at content with muscular bodies, which is exactly what you're saying. The standards of physique has completely changed. So you're seeing these like 3 grains of sand that are like the most muscular physiques in the world, and thinking everybody looks like that. So that was one. And the second was actually muscle building drugs on social media, and the rising prevalence of usage, which I know you're going to speak to next. And the third one, it was even just muscle building dietary supplements, and the visuals and messaging around supplement use and how that can lead to increased muscularity. And when all 3 of those types of content are thrown into the mix, there was really strong positive associations between that content and muscle dysmorphia. And it actually, what I found most interesting about the study was it was independent of the time somebody spent on social media, but it did increase with the frequency of exposure. And both our time spent on social media as a society, especially in the fitness space, that has grown over time for sure. But that's not even what's important. It's just how frequently we are actually exposed to that content. And that's grown. We have way more content creators in the fitness space than we probably ever thought we would. And we are being pummeled with imagery and associations and physiques in that space over and over and over again. And so the research says it, but we don't even need the research to know anecdotally that that's going to have an effect on men's mental health.
Absolutely. And especially with your feed is just shown, Mr. Olympia is like the only thing you see as a guy, and you're like, oh, is that what it means to be a man? But in reality, when you're young, like when I was young, I didn't know what steroids were. Okay. Let's talk about that now. I would look at the magazines and be like, wow, I should keep doing my push-ups in my dad's basement, because one day I'm going to look like Ronnie Coleman. I had no idea, obviously, genetics and what steroid abuse or steroid use was. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And then one day my dreams are unfortunately broken, before I then found natural bodybuilders, and I was like, wow, these guys are epic too. But before I found that, all my dreams were crushed, because I realized all the people I look up to YouTube, like all the OG YouTubers, I was like, wow, I really am inspired by these people. They were all using performance enhancing drugs, which as a young guy, you're like, well, do I need to take those? And people don't have the same exposure to natural bodybuilding now. Hopefully that niche is growing, which is fantastic, and we're trying to promote that as well. But I think that's what's leading a lot of younger people to start using steroids, and the prevalence of steroid use has skyrocketed, especially in younger men.
In younger men. Yeah. I was going to say, from my perspective, the prevalence has increased and skyrocketed, but the transparency has gone down. I think, like, you and I've had conversations about this, but I see it myself. Like, the more you get into the space, you learn a little bit about some of the visual signs that somebody might be, there's the whole natty or not combo and debate or whatever. But there are clear indicators when you get used to seeing enhanced physiques that somebody might be using, but there's not a lot of transparency around that usage. So that creates a false standard. Like what you were saying before is, like, you didn't know that some of those quote unquote idols were enhanced, but the state of bodybuilding at that time objectively was a lot more, those bodybuilders, they're all enhanced, because we didn't know much about natural. But now that natural bodybuilding has grown, the lines are a lot more blurry, because people the ones who are using aren't transparent enough about the fact that they are using. So even though there's natural bodybuilders out there, if you were, yourself at 14, 15 in today's era, how do you start to tell, right? And I think that's where the challenge is.
You don't, and this is why you really got to find good kind of source of inspiration, I think. And a lot of people don't even really know that there's amazing natural physiques out there. There is more transparency around drug use, I'd say, with some people, but then the issue becomes it's almost a glorification because now we're almost glorifying the use of PEDs. And let's not forget that these are illegal things with potentially long-term negative health consequences. And now we're glorifying the use of them because that's more manly to look like, a giant, person. When in reality, like that has nothing to do with being a man at all. So we have, that's why we have so many young men using steroids, because a lot of them just don't know that you can get really far naturally, and then B, they think that that's what being a man means because that's what's promoted online, which is unfortunate, really, really, really unfortunate. And then they think that that's what a good physique looks like. So it's like either you're a freak of nature or you have a crappy physique, and you can achieve an amazing physique. That just because you're not like a freak show doesn't mean that you don't have a great physique.
Is there anything that's helped you navigate that landscape? I mean, I know you have a little bit maybe of a more experienced perspective. You also have the scientific knowledge to interpret things and to know what causes muscle growth. You've been on your own journey, anecdotally through yourself or through clients. But when you go on social media and you're exposed with all this messaging, what's helped you navigate it that you feel like the younger generation might also benefit from?
Yeah,
or anybody, not just the younger generation, anybody.
Yeah, this is a good time to talk about like the comparison game. First things first, you have no idea anything about that person. When you see a crazy physique, you don't know if they look like that now, they used to look like that, if they're on drugs, if they're not, what their genetics are like, how long they've been training, what their lifestyle looks like. You have no context. So it doesn't make sense logically to get disheartened because, I don't look like that person. I suck, right? You don't know anything about them. And a lot of times these are just the most perfect context of everything. Like you see somebody at their leanest, under the best lighting, tan, pumped up, on drugs, and that's what you're comparing yourself just on a normal day, looking in the mirror, not like just in your normal clothes, being like, well, I don't look like that, I suck, right? So it's just kind of keeping that perspective and kind of logicking your way through it, and then also acknowledging that what they're doing or what they look like literally has nothing to do with your progress. So what I want to advocate is find really good sources of inspiration. Okay, like find natural. If you're a guy who's looking at physique development without the use of drugs, find impressive natural bodybuilders. That's what I did. I found really great natural bodybuilders as people I could look up to and see what is attainable naturally. And then you just get motivated by your own progress versus comparing your progress. You could look at other people for inspiration when you find the right people. But then apart from that, you have to almost look at yourself as inspiration, look what you used to look like, look at yourself now, and use that as a motivation to keep going forward instead of relying on others, and just get really hyped about your own progress.
I think that's also a great way to go back to what we said earlier. Actually, unlock the mental health benefits of controlling your own journey, right? Because you're not going to control whether you look like someone else, but you're going to control if you make progress and improvements. And so when you measure your progress based on what's within your control and you then unlock greater feelings of control, that is kind of mentally satisfying to know that you can shape your own outcomes. But I think, as you said, like when you're finding that, good source of inspiration and, if that's in the natural bodybuilding space, for example, I also think then what's imperative to that is to learn about the context of those people, right? Because like you were just saying, the big challenge is you can't navigate a space effectively when you don't know the context, but all you're left with is the visuals. But when you find good sources of inspiration, I encourage anybody to like actually understand the context of that person and figure out if you relate to them. Because if you can relate to them, then they are a good source of inspiration for you. And, we see this example. I'm going to use a female focused example for a second, but like, the mom of 3 who also works full time, she might be a single parent. She doesn't have the same 24 hours in her day as that 18-year-old who is getting started in the gym, has no other responsibilities, lives at home, doesn't pay bills, things like that, right?
Yeah.
So not to say they don't have any other responsibilities. They have some, but just very different. And so those two people don't relate necessarily. There might be other things they relate on, but they don't relate objectively on their ability to progress on their fitness journey in the exact same ways. So choosing somebody who has similar circumstances to you. And even if they don't, understanding why they're different and how that applies to you, I think can be helpful to navigate the comparison game.
Definitely. And then just realizing it really doesn't matter. Even with all the natty or not things, like, who cares? Like, how is like going down the rabbit hole and figuring out if this person's natural or not, how is that going to help me in my journey? I get it. It's because we want to find people that we can look up to that are natural as an example of, wow, this is attainable naturally, so I should keep going at it.
Yeah.
But like, that shouldn't be the reason whether or not you choose to keep chasing your goals. You know what I mean? So it really doesn't affect your journey at all, who's using drugs, who's not. Like, focus on your own stuff. And dial in your variables and chase your goals hard and see what happens. Like, what everybody else is doing really doesn't matter at all. Unless you're driving inspiration from it. Like, that's the only positive thing about comparison, is that if it gives you a, wow, that's attainable, okay, I've got to keep working harder, right? But even if you don't have those positive sources, like, you can find them, but also it doesn't really matter. Take action anyways. Who cares if this person's natty or not? Like, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah. So I know that this conversation is not one that's easily summarized in 30 minutes or even an hour or any amount of time, really. It's an ongoing conversation too. Today, we wanted to share some initial perspective, and thank you for sharing yours, Parris.
Yeah, of course.
To really just to honor the fact that November is, becoming Movember, and we need to be talking about men's mental health. So this won't be the last time we talk about it in this space. But for today, in the interest of the listeners' time and trying to keep these episodes more consistent with our usual timing, what are some of the current thoughts that you have around men's mental health in the fitness space at this moment in time in 2025 that you want to make sure we don't forget to acknowledge?
I think the main one is like the sand analogy. I've realized what you're looking at is a complete outlier and it's not the normal. And then also realizing there's a lot of context behind those images or videos that you're seeing, and understanding, like, the context that they're taking in, and how much of a highlight reel that is. And then also understanding that, like, comparing yourself to them doesn't give you any benefit in your journey. And you should just be more focused on, like, your own stuff and your own progress, and get hyped up. Like, you should be your own hype man. You see that bit of progress, like, wow, let me double down on this whole fitness journey thing and see what else I can do. And I almost like to be fueled by curiosity of the next level rather than anything else. It's like, okay, this is what I look like now with this. Imagine what I'm going to look like in 2 years. And that should be motivating. That should be really motivating. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way to find self-efficacy, right? And we are saying all of this, also acknowledging, like we said at the beginning, mental health is a spectrum, right? These are things that, might not necessarily be as impactful when you have more serious mental health concerns and that you need to, address with a professional. But these are filters that can help you protect your mental health as a man when you are browsing social media or hearing different messages or trying to figure out how you can feel in control of the mental health outcomes along the way on your fitness journey. So hopefully this is a helpful conversation to start thinking about that. But I also, as the woman in the room, want to also echo the importance of giving men a space to talk about their emotions, which is, Parris, how you started the conversation. So I want to kind of come full circle and go back to that. And your emotions will shape your fitness journey too. We are all emotional people. We are all driven by emotions. Our emotions help us take action. They also prevent us from taking other action. So I think the women in men's lives need to also give men a space to be emotional too. Just, it goes both ways. It totally goes both ways.
For sure. No, that's a good point. And also, it's realizing you're in charge of who you engage with, like, on your feed, or to a certain extent, or who you listen to, or what podcasts you listen to, or what YouTube videos you watch, or who you follow on Instagram. Like, make sure you're soaking up content that's going to serve you. If every time you open and you feel like shit about your physique from some person's post, don't follow them. Why do you need that? Follow only things that are going to be inspirational or a good, credible source of information, and people that you align with. And I think that's the main thing. Like, control the content that you are absorbing, because it does have a pretty significant effect on how you think, more so than you probably realize.
Absolutely. I think that's a really profound way to start wrapping things up. Okay, so thank you to anybody who listened to this. Like we said, and we'll say it time and time again, this is one snippet of a conversation on a very complex subject that we hope we can continue to revisit and continue to just advocate for men's mental health within the fitness space, because we know how impactful it is, not just to your fitness transformation or your fitness journey, but to you as a human being. And at the end of the day, fitness is all about developing into our best version of ourselves. And so taking care of our mental health is really at the core of that. Any further thoughts, Parris?
No, thanks for opening up this convo. It was good.
Yeah, I'm going to say thank you to a very close friend of Team Truth who also suggested this topic. We're going to keep things anonymous for today, but we definitely want to shout out that person if you're listening. Thank you for inspiring us to talk about this topic and making it known that there are men out there who want to support each other on this subject. So please find your people, dudes. Find your other dudes. And establishing a community of men that support each other, I think, is the first step forward, because there is power in numbers. And there's power in voices being in numbers.
Yeah. And lead by example in terms of what thoughts you put out there and how you act. I think that's the biggest thing. Like be a leader in how you act and how you communicate with people. And I think that's important. And
like take care of others in a way that you expect them to also take care of others. Like if you can lead by, like even like you said, Parris, I'm, asking your friend, like, how are you doing? And like, not just meaning, hey, how's it going, bro? But like being like, how are you? Right. And taking that moment, because you hope that then they can pass that on to someone else. So you're taking, you do have the ability, like you said, you have the ability to control what's on your feed. You have the ability to shape how you show up with other men and what messages you continue to promote. So we can't control what other people say online or how they show up online or whether or not they use PEDs and tell us the truth about it. But you can control what you say about yourself and what messaging you choose to promote. So making sure that you are creating a safe space for yourself and protecting yourself and acting as your own filter, but you can also filter what gets passed along. And I think that's really important so that men can continue to look out for each other's mental well-being.
Awesome. Perfect.
Okay. Amazing. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this kind of special episode of Truth Talks. We got a little bit extra truthful on this one. So we know that this is an important subject. If there are other topics that you feel are really important that intersect with your fitness journey, please drop them in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Happy Movember to all the men out there and all the women supporting the men out there this month. That's equally important. We will be back with another regularly scheduled episode of Truth Talks next week. We are in your feeds every Monday, so if you haven't subscribed already, please do so right now. Or send us any suggestions on topics you want us to cover via a DM on Instagram at Truth Body Systems. All right, without further ado, we'll leave you for this week. Have an amazing week ahead. We'll see you next Monday with another episode of Truth Talks. Bye for now.
Take care.